The hospital was quiet, the sterile walls pulsing with the soft beeping of machines. Inside the private room, a man lay dying. Alastair Kensington, an 85-year-old billionaire whose empire spanned across continents, now clung to life in the cold, antiseptic air of the ICU. His once powerful frame had withered. His sharp eyes, once filled with the brilliance of leadership, were now clouded with regret and unresolved longing. Ava Martinez, just 22 years old, stood quietly by his side. At her age, she had already gained a reputation for her skill and compassion. Her deep brown eyes, warm yet distant, reflected the weight of the hospital's stillness. She had seen many like him, rich, powerful men reduced to nothing by time and illness, but there was something different about Alastair. His presence, though weakened, filled the room with an unspoken energy, pulling at the edges of her empathy. Her fingers lightly grazed his hand, steady and sure as she adjusted the four. For a moment, their eyes met, and Alastair's lips parted slightly, struggling to speak. "I should have done more," he whispered hoarsely. Ava nodded, though she could barely hear him. She'd been instructed to keep him comfortable, no more interventions, just quiet care. But even in his frail state, something about him commanded attention, a force that had once moved the world. Alastair Kensington, once a titan in the business world, now lay dying with a heart full of unspoken words. There was silence between them, an uncomfortable quiet that hung heavily in the air. Ava shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her fingers still resting lightly on his hand, wondering if she should say something, anything to comfort him. But the words didn't come. She knew him only as the frail man in the bed, not the legendary figure from history books. Yet there was a deep empathy she couldn't ignore, something that tugged at her even as she maintained a professional distance. Alastair struggled to gather his thoughts, his hand twitching ever so slightly in hers. Then, with a rasp, he spoke again, his voice barely audible. "I have a secret, something I've kept from everyone. And before I go, I need you to find her." Ava's eyes widened slightly, her pulse quickening. "Who, sir?" "My daughter," he whispered, the words carrying the weight of years of silence. "Her name is Sophia. She must know the truth before it's too late." Her mind raced. "Your daughter?" "Yes." His voice trembled, and his eyes softened with the weight of the past. "Her mother and we were once in love. But I left her for this empire, and now my time is almost up. I need to make things right." Ava stood there, her breath caught in her throat. The task seemed simple enough. Find a daughter. But something about the way he spoke, the way his eyes carried a mix of regret and desperation, told her that this was more than just a request. This was a man on the edge, hoping that somehow, by making one last attempt, he could find peace before the end. Her gaze never left his. "I'll find her," she said, her voice steady but tinged with uncertainty. "I promise I will." He closed his eyes, his body relaxing just slightly, as if a burden had been lifted, even if only for a moment. Ava couldn't help but feel the gravity of the situation. Here was a man, with all the riches in the world, now asking for something far more valuable, something that couldn't be bought. And with that promise, Ava was pulled into a world she wasn't prepared for, a world filled with secrets, regrets, and the quest for redemption, a world that would force her to confront her own understanding of love, loss, and forgiveness. Ava's mission was clear. Find Sophia, the daughter Alastair had abandoned for the empire he built. As she stood by his bedside, the promise she'd made lingered in her mind, growing heavier with each passing moment. The weight of his words, the desperation in his voice, echoed in her thoughts as she prepared herself to embark on a journey she hadn't anticipated. The journey wasn't just physical. It was an emotional odyssey that would force her to confront things she hadn't planned to confront. The icy coldness of Alistair's mansion loomed ahead as Ava packed her things, her mind torn between the task at hand and the complexities of the man she'd just begun to understand. She had no idea what she was walking into, but something deep inside told her she wasn't just chasing a daughter's history. She was about to step into a world of buried emotions, hidden truths, and something more powerful than either of them had ever expected. Ava arrived at the mansion just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows over the towering structure. The vast estate was silent, its marble floors gleaming beneath the faint glow of distant lights. It felt almost as if the mansion itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. She made her way through grand hallways, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. Alistair's empire, filled with wealth and luxury, now seemed cold and empty, its grandeur mocking the loneliness that had consumed him in his final years. The papers, the press, the world, none of them knew the truth. They only saw the billionaire who had it all. But Ava was beginning to see beyond the facade. She saw a man who had lived a life of regret, a man who had been haunted by the choices he made, a man who, at the end, had only one wish left: to make things right before it was too late. Her mind raced as she sifted through Alistair's personal belongings. Letters, photos, and old records scattered around the room told a different story, a story of a young love, a woman named Sophia who had once shared his life, and the daughter she had borne, hidden away from a world. Ava couldn't help but feel the weight of the unspoken words in the air. There was more to this man's past than anyone had ever known, and the truth lay buried in the quiet corners of this mansion. As the days passed, Ava became increasingly absorbed in her search. She scoured every document, every letter, every trace of Sophia's existence. She found a letter tucked away in an old drawer, written by Sophia herself. The words were few, but they told a story of abandonment, of a woman who had tried to live without Alistair, and of a child who had grown up in the shadow of the past. With the letter as her guide, Ava tracked Sophia down. She found her in a small, quiet town on the edge of the city. The town was a far cry from the cold grandeur of the mansion. Here, the pace of life was slower, simpler. The apartment where Sophia lived was modest, its dim lighting casting soft shadows over the room. When Ava knocked on the door, she wasn't prepared for what she would find. Sophia stood before her, guarded, distant, yet unmistakably familiar. The pain in her eyes mirrored something Ava had felt in her own life, a quiet sorrow that could never be erased. "I'm Ava," she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. "I've come to find you. Your father, he's asked me to bring you the truth." Sophia's eyes flickered with something, anger, disbelief, and perhaps even curiosity, but she quickly masked it. The years of resentment she carried for her father were etched in the lines of her face. "I don't want his wealth," Sophia replied flatly. "I want nothing from him." Ava stood there, her heart aching for the woman before her. She could see the emotional walls that had been built over years of abandonment, but she also saw something else, a vulnerability that Sophia hadn't allowed anyone to witness, not even herself. "You don't have to forgive him," Ava whispered, "but you deserve to know the truth." Sophia hesitated, her gaze lingering on Ava's face for a moment before she stepped aside, allowing her into the room. The air between them crackled with tension, charged with emotions neither of them were ready to confront. But Ava was determined to find the answers, not just for Alistair, but for Sophia as well. As the night unfolded, the two women began to speak, to share the pieces of themselves they had hidden away for so long. The conversation shifted from past regrets to present desires, from unspoken pain to unacknowledged needs. The connection between them grew, slow and deliberate, until it became undeniable. Ava's fingers brushed lightly against Sophia's hand as they spoke of the past. The touch was electric, filled with emotion, with unspoken understanding. And in that moment, everything shifted. Sophia's sharpness softened as Ava's warmth enveloped her, and for the first time in years, she allowed herself to be vulnerable. Her lips parted slightly, and Ava, unable to resist, leaned in. Their lips met in a kiss that was slow, tender, and filled with the longing they had both carried for so long. It was a kiss that spoke of more than just desire. It spoke of healing, of connection, and of the emotional weight that had been buried deep within them both. As their kiss deepened, the room grew warmer, the air thick with desire and unspoken emotions. This wasn't just physical. It was a meeting of hearts, a joining of souls that transcended the pain of the past. Their bodies moved together with a grace and urgency that spoke of everything they had both tried to hide from the world. In the quiet of that room, surrounded by the soft hum of the night, Ava and Sophia gave into the pull they had been resisting. The world outside didn't matter anymore. In that moment, they were free to explore their desires, their fears, and their need for connection. As the night wore on, the air between Ava and Sophia grew thick with the undeniable pull of desire. Their kiss had been the beginning, but neither of them was prepared for the storm of emotions that would follow. Ava could feel the weight of everything Sophia had carried, the hurt, the betrayal, and the vulnerability. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, raw, and all-consuming. Sophia pulled away for a moment, her chest rising and falling with each breath. Her eyes locked with Ava's, searching for something, perhaps reassurance, perhaps something deeper. "I never thought I could feel this," she whispered, her voice trembling. Ava reached out, her fingers brushing the side of Sophia's face, the warmth of her touch grounding her. "You don't have to be afraid," Ava murmured. "This, whatever this is, it's not just about the past. It's about us, what we can heal together." Sophia's breath hitched, her gaze softening. Her walls, which had been built so high, began to crumble under Ava's gentle touch and soothing words. She leaned into Ava's palm, eyes closing briefly as though the world around them had disappeared. In that moment, the connection between them deepened. The past, the pain, and the regrets were still there, lingering like a shadow. But the way they held each other, this slow, passionate surrender, felt like the start of something new. Ava's lips brushed against Sophia's neck, the softness of her touch sending waves of sensation through her body. The quiet of the room enveloped them, the hum of the city outside fading into nothing. The soft rustling of sheets, the sound of their breath, and the faint pulse of their hearts were all that could be heard. There was nothing else, just the two of them in the stillness of that room, letting everything go. Sophia's hands found their way to Ava's back, pulling her closer, as if trying to merge their bodies into one. The kiss deepened again, but this time it was more than just a kiss. It was a promise that no matter the secrets they had carried, no matter the pain they had both endured, they were here in this moment, and that was all that mattered. Ava's fingers traced the curve of Sophia's spine, her touch slow and deliberate, savoring the connection. The tension in the room was palpable, but it wasn't just physical tension. It was the weight of desire and longing that had been kept buried for so long. The soft touch of their bodies against each other was electric, and every movement felt like an exploration of not just their bodies, but their hearts. Sophia gasped softly as Ava's lips found the sensitive spot just behind her ear. The sensation sent a shiver down her spine, and she instinctively arched into Ava, her fingers gripping Ava's shoulders as though she were grounding herself in the moment. The emotions that had been locked inside her, anger, desire, fear, began to flood her, and she allowed herself to feel them, for once letting go of the walls she had built. As they lay together, the world outside disappeared. The vulnerability of the moment was all-encompassing. Ava, once a nurse focused solely on care, now found herself entwined in the raw beauty of this connection. It wasn't just about pleasure. It was about understanding, about healing. Each touch, Each kiss was a step forward in their journey toward reconciliation, not just with Alistair's past, but with each other. Sophia's hands moved the hem of Ava's shirt, pulling it gently over her head. Ava's skin tingled as the cool air met her bare skin, but the heat between them was undeniable. The electricity in the room was palpable as Sophia's hands explored her body, tracing the curves of her chest, her stomach, before finally resting on her waist. Every touch was slow, deliberate, and filled with intensity. Their bodies moved together, the rhythm of their passion matching the beat of their hearts. Each kiss, each caress, felt like a release, a breaking down of the walls they had both spent years building. It was more than just physical release. It was a freedom that neither had known they needed. Sophia's lips found their way to Ava's neck, and as her kiss grew deeper, more desperate, Ava's breath hitched. The tension between them reached a crescendo, but neither of them wanted to let go, not just yet. The connection they had formed in those quiet moments was so much more than either had expected. In the space of that intimacy, they had found not only a new beginning, but a new understanding of love, of desire, and of what it meant to truly connect with another soul. The emotional weight of the past didn't disappear, but it no longer had control over them. They had finally allowed themselves to be vulnerable, to feel the love and desire they had denied for so long. Sophia's hands roamed over Ava's body, touching, exploring, cherishing, as if they had all the time in the world. But the reality of their situation was always just beneath the surface. Alistair's request was still there, waiting to be fulfilled. They had to face the past, but for now, in this moment, they allowed themselves to let go. As the night carried on, the tension between them melted into something deeper, something that both women had been craving but had never allowed themselves to truly feel. Each kiss, each touch, was a promise of understanding, of healing, and of a connection that transcended the pain of the past. The room was still, save for the soft sounds of their breaths and the faint rustle of sheets as they moved together, lost in each other. Sophia's fingers trailed down Ava's body, slowly, deliberately, as though memorizing every inch of her. The warmth of her touch ignited something in Ava, stirring desire she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge. She had always been the one to take care of others, to be the strong, empathetic figure in the room. But now, with Sophia, she could finally surrender. In Sophia's arms, Ava didn't have to be the nurse, the caretaker, the one who was always in control. She could simply be herself. Sophia leaned forward, pressing her lips to Ava's collarbone, tasting her skin as though she were savoring a forbidden fruit. The sensation sent waves of heat through Ava, and she gasped softly, her hands clutching at Sophia's shoulders, pulling her closer. Every movement was a slow, deliberate dance, a push and pull of need, of longing, of two women finally coming to terms with the connection they had been fighting. As the kiss deepened, Ava could feel the fire building between them. There was nothing frantic about it. It was slow, measured, full of intent. Every touch was an invitation. Every kiss a promise of something more, a chance to explore the raw emotions they had buried for too long. Ava's hands roamed Sophia's back, fingers slipping beneath the fabric of her clothes, feeling the soft, warm skin of the woman who had been living a life of pain, of abandonment, of walls built to protect herself from a world that had hurt her. Sophia responded in kind, her hand sliding over Ava's body with a tenderness that spoke volumes. There was no rush, no urgency, just a silent understanding that this moment, this connection, was something neither of them had ever experienced before. It wasn't just about the passion. It was about the vulnerability that came with allowing someone else into the deepest parts of your heart. Ava's lips traced a path down Sophia's neck, tasting the salty skin as she moved lower, taking in the soft sighs of pleasure that escaped from Sophia's lips. Sophia's breath quickened, and Ava could feel the shiver that ran through her body as she kissed her way back up to Sophia's ear, whispering her name softly. Sophia's hand slid into Ava's hair, pulling her into a deep, urgent kiss, her fingers threading through the strands as if trying to pull Ava even closer. The moment was intoxicating, but it was more than just desire. It was a deep emotional release, a letting go of all the hurt, all the anger, and all the fear they had carried for so long. In each other's arms, they found solace. They found peace. Sophia's hands, trembling ever so slightly, found their way to Ava's waist, pulling her even closer. The closeness of their bodies, the soft warmth of each touch, created an intimacy that was unrushed but overwhelming. It was a meeting of two souls who had been scarred, but who now had the chance to heal in the most intimate way possible. The room seemed to fade away, and all that was left was the sensation of their bodies pressed together, moving in slow, deliberate rhythm. The kiss deepened once more, this time filled with the rawness of unspoken emotions. The intensity between them swelled, but it wasn't just physical. It was emotional, an unspoken understanding that neither had fully allowed themselves to experience before. The journey that had begun with regret, with bitterness, and with pain, was now being rewritten in this moment of tenderness and passion. Sophia's hands traced Ava's curves as though she were exploring a new world, her touch gentle yet possessive, as though she wanted to memorize every inch of her. Ava's heart raced, not from the physical connection, but from the emotional vulnerability that was pouring out between them. She had always been the one to hold others together, to fix what was broken, but in this moment, she allowed herself to be broken too. Sophia's body was warm against hers, and Ava could feel her heart racing as their lips met once again, this time with an urgency that matched the desire that had been building for what seemed like an eternity. Their kisses became more desperate, more fervent, as they pulled each other closer, desperate for the closeness, for the intimacy that neither of them had been able to allow themselves before. Sophia's lips found their way to Ava's neck once more, pressing soft, slow kisses along the sensitive skin. Ava's hands traveled to Sophia's back, feeling the muscles tense as she responded to the touch. The passion between them burned brighter with each passing second, but this time, it wasn't just about physical release. It was about healing, about finding each other in a world that had tried to keep them apart. Ava's fingers grazed the skin at the small of Sophia's back, and she felt the shiver that ran through her. The soft gas that escaped Sophia's lips only fueled the desire between them, and with each passing moment, the connection between them grew stronger, deeper, more intense. Sophia's hand slipped beneath Ava's clothes once more, tracing the curve of her waist, and Ava's body responded to her touch with a mix of desire and tenderness. There was nothing rushed about this moment. It was slow and intimate, every movement full of intention, full of meaning. It wasn't just about the physical connection. It was about something more profound. It was about letting go and surrendering to something greater than themselves. The world outside, the past, the regrets, all of it faded away as they came together in a moment of shared passion and vulnerability. In the silence of that room, surrounded by the flickering candlelight, they found something they hadn't known they needed: connection, understanding, and a love that transcended time and pain. As the night unfolded, the intensity of their connection only deepened. Ava's heart raced in the quiet aftermath of their passion, the lingering warmth of Sophia's body pressed against hers. There were no words, only the soft rhythm of their breath, the steady pulse of their hearts as they held each other close. Ava could feel the walls that had once surrounded her heart begin to crumble, piece by piece, until there was nothing left but the raw, unguarded truth of what they shared in that moment. Sophia's fingers traced the lines of Ava's jaw, her touch light and tender, as though she were afraid to break the fragile, intimate silence that had settled between them. Ava's eyes fluttered closed, her hand resting on Sophia's back, feeling the soft rise and fall of her chest with every breath. It was a moment that felt timeless, a moment suspended in the space between longing and fulfillment. "I never thought I'd find this," Sophia whispered, her voice low and full of emotion. Not from him. Not from anyone. Ava turned her face toward Sophia, her eyes soft with understanding. She didn't need to ask who he was. She already knew. It was Alistair. It was a man who had abandoned Sophia and left her grow up without a father. But in this moment, it wasn't about Alistair. It wasn't even about the past. It was about them, about what they were beginning to build together. I didn't expect this either, Ava admitted, her voice barely a whisper. But I'm here, and so are you, and that's all that matters now. Sophia's lips curled into a soft smile, her eyes searching Ava's face, as though trying to find the words she couldn't say. There was a vulnerability in her gaze, a quiet surrender that Ava had never expected to see. It was a vulnerability that mirrored her own, something they had both hidden from the world for so long. As the silence stretched between them, Ava's hand found its way to Sophia's cheek, cupping her face gently. Her thumb brushed over the soft skin, tracing the path of the tear that had slipped down Sophia's cheek earlier. It was a tender moment, so soft and intimate that Ava could feel the weight of it in her chest. Sophia closed her eyes at the touch, leaning into Ava's palm, the warmth of her body seeping into Ava's own. It was a simple gesture, but in that quiet act, something shifted between them, something deeper than desire, something stronger than the pull they had both felt in the heat of the moment. Ava leaned forward, pressing her lips to Sophia's forehead in a soft, lingering kiss. The touch was gentle, full of care, full of a tenderness that they both needed. They had both been lost for so long, wandering through lives filled with shadows and regrets. But now, in each other's arms, they had found something worth holding on to. Sophia's breath hitched as she felt Ava's lips move from her forehead to her lips, soft and hesitant, as though testing the waters once more. Their lips met again, this time with a quiet urgency, a need that had been simmering beneath the surface. It wasn't just about the physical connection. It was about something more profound, more intimate. It was about finally allowing themselves to be vulnerable, to feel in a world that had taught them to hide their hearts behind walls. Sophia's hand slid up to Ava's neck, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss. Ava responded, her hands exploring the curve of Sophia's back, pulling her into the warmth of her embrace. The kiss was slow, deliberate, an exploration of not just their bodies, but their souls. It was a silent promise, a vow to never let go, to never let the past define what they could be together. As the kiss deepened, Ava's hands roamed to the small of Sophia's back, urging her closer. The heat between them built once more, but it was different this time. It wasn't about rushing or giving into passion. It was about connection, about allowing themselves to truly be seen. Sophia pulled away slightly, her chest rising and falling with each breath. Her eyes were dark with desire, but there was something else there, something more vulnerable, more raw. "Ava," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion, "I don't know how to trust again. Not after everything. But with you, I feel safe. I feel like I can breathe." Ava cupped Sophia's face in her hands, her thumb brushing over her lips. "You don't have to have all the answers. All you need to do is trust this. Trust us." The words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. There was no need for promises, no need to say more. Their bodies had already spoken the truth they both needed to hear. Sophia's hands found their way to Ava's waist, pulling her into a deeper kiss. This time, there was no hesitation, no fear, just a quiet, undeniable pull of need, of connection, of love blooming between them. As their bodies came together once more, the world outside ceased to exist. There was only them, their shared touch, the warmth between them, the way they fit together like pieces of a puzzle that had been waiting to be completed. In that room, in the quiet stillness of the night, Ava and Sophia found more than just passion. They found healing. They found forgiveness. They found a way to write their own story, one that wasn't defined by their past, but by the love and trust they were building together. The night deepened around them, and the world outside seemed a distant memory. Ava and Sophia lay tangled together, their bodies pressed close in the warmth of the moment. The air was thick with desire, but there was something else beneath the surface, something softer, more tender. In the quiet of their shared space, Ava felt the weight of the past slowly slip away, replaced by a sense of peace she hadn't known was possible. Sophia's fingers traced gentle lines across Ava's skin, the touch light but purposeful, as if she were learning every inch of her. Ava closed her eyes, surrendering to the sensation of being touched with such care, such reverence. It was a feeling she hadn't expected. Not from a stranger, not from someone so new to her world. But in this moment, it felt like they had known each other forever, as if they had always been destined to meet in this way. "Ava," Sophia whispered, her voice soft and full of wonder, "you make me feel like I'm not broken. Like I'm not just a girl who was abandoned. Like I'm whole again." The words cut through Ava, filling her with a quiet ache. She had always been the one to heal others, but in this moment, it was Sophia who was healing her, mending the wounds she hadn't realized she carried. "I don't want you to feel broken," Ava replied, her voice low and tender. She turned to face Sophia, cupping her cheek gently. "You're not broken. You're beautiful. You're worthy of love." Sophia's eyes softened, and for a moment, it felt like the whole world had melted away. There was no past, no regrets, just the two of them entwined in the present. Vulnerability, once a foreign concept for both of them, had become their shared language, and it was a language that Ava was beginning to understand all too well. The kiss they shared then was different from the others. It was slower, deeper, as though they were communicating everything they had left unsaid. Ava's hands roamed as small as Sophia's back, pulling her closer, their bodies molding together as though they were made for this. The heat between them ignited once more, but it was tempered with something new, trust. Sophia's hands moved with intention, tracing the lines of Ava's body, each touch a whispered promise. Ava responded in kind, her fingers slipping beneath the fabric of Sophia's dress, feeling the soft, warm skin beneath. It wasn't rushed, nor was it driven by sheer desire. It was a deep, intimate exploration of what it meant to finally be seen, to finally be wanted. Sophia pulled away from the kiss, her chest rising and falling with each breath, her eyes dark with desire but softened by something more vulnerable. "I never thought I could feel like this," she confessed, her voice thick with emotion. "I've spent so long building walls. I didn't think anyone would ever be able to break them down." Ava's heart clenched at the rawness of Sophia's words. She understood the sentiment all too well. She, too, had built walls around her heart, focusing on her work, her duty, her role as a caregiver. But now, in this moment, all those walls had crumbled. And it was Sophia, the woman who had been hurt, who had been abandoned, that had pulled her into a space of healing. "You don't need to hide anymore," Ava whispered, her lips brushing against Sophia's forehead in a tender kiss. "You're safe with me. You always will be." Sophia's arms wrapped around Ava, pulling her closer, as if trying to bring her even closer to the depths of her soul. Ava could feel the softness of Sophia's skin against hers, the warmth that radiated between them. In that moment, the space between them didn't just disappear. It felt like they had become one. The touch of their bodies, the slow rhythm of their movements, was no longer about physical need alone. It was about intimacy, about the connection they shared, about the love that had been buried so deeply inside them both. They moved together. Their bodies responded to each other's rhythms, as though they had always known how to fit together. Sophia's lips found their way to Ava's neck, her kiss gentle at first, but growing more urgent with each passing second. Ava's hands moved to Sophia's back, sliding down to her waist, feeling the soft curve of her body. The world outside no longer mattered. There was only the shared warmth between them, the intimacy they were building. In the quiet of that room, the kiss deepened, the emotions between them intensifying. Ava could feel her heart pounding in her chest, each beat synchronized with Sophia's, as if their very souls were entwining. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a surrender, a giving into the raw vulnerability they had both denied for so long. Sophia's hands traced Ava's spine, pulling her even closer, as though she never wanted to let go. Their bodies moved together with a slow, deliberate rhythm, every touch a new revelation. They had both been searching for something deeper than passion, deeper than physical connection. They had been searching for each other. Ava's hands roamed to the back of Sophia's dress, slowly unzipping it, her fingers grazing the soft skin underneath. Sophia's breath hitched at the touch, but there was no hesitation, no fear, just the quiet trust that had been built between them. The dress slid off her shoulders, revealing the smooth, soft skin of her back. Ava traced the curve of her spine, her fingers lingering in the delicate spaces where her skin met air, feeling the heat between them rise once more. Their bodies moved together, and in that moment, it was as though the world outside had ceased to exist. There were no pasts, no regrets, just two souls, finally allowing themselves to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be loved. The intimacy they shared wasn't just physical. It was a culmination of everything they had been through, everything they had kept buried deep inside. It was a healing touch, a connection that went beyond the physical, beyond the moment. As the night wore on, they continued to explore each other, slowly, tenderly, allowing themselves to experience the kind of love they had both been denied for so long. The emotional and physical connection they shared was something they had never known before, and it was something neither of them was willing to let go of. As the night stretched on, Ava and Sophia's connection only deepened, becoming a delicate balance between emotional vulnerability and physical desire. The quiet hum of the city outside seemed far removed, as if the world had paused just for them. Every touch, every kiss, felt like a new discovery, an exploration not just of each other's bodies, but the tender, fragile spaces they had kept hidden for so long. Ava's hands gently cupped Sophia's face, feeling the warmth of her skin, the subtle tremor that ran through her as though this moment was just as overwhelming for Sophia as it was for Ava. It was as though their souls were finally meeting, pieces of themselves they had both kept locked away for years, now out in the open, exposed to the quiet intimacy they had found in each other. Sophia's breath came in short gasps, her lips parted slightly as she gazed into Ava's eyes. There was a vulnerability in her gaze that made Ava's heart ache, a vulnerability she had never seen before, even in the tender moments they had shared. It was the kind of vulnerability that made Ava realize just how much Sophia had been hiding for so long. Why didn't you ever let yourself feel this? Ava whispered softly, brushing her thumb over Sophia's cheek. Why did you keep it all locked away? Sophia closed her eyes for a moment, and the silence between them stretched, filled with the weight of everything that had gone unsaid. Because I was afraid, she admitted, her voice barely audible. Afraid that if I let someone in, they would leave me, just like he did. Ava's heart tightened at the raw honesty in Sophia's words. She knew, all too well, the kind of pain that came from loving someone who would let you go. The fear, the doubt, the loneliness that crept in when you thought you would never be seen again. I'm not him, Ava said softly, her voice full of warmth and certainty. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere. Sophia's eyes softened, her lips trembling slightly as she reached up to touch Ava's face. It was a small gesture, but it was everything. Ava leaned into her touch, her heart pounding in her chest. The room seemed to fade away, and all that mattered was this moment, the two of them, the world outside no longer existing. Sophia leaned in, her lips brushing Ava's in a soft, lingering kiss. It wasn't filled with urgency or need. It was tender, sweet, and full of meaning. It was the kiss of someone who had been waiting to be seen, to be loved, to be accepted for exactly who they were. And Ava gave that to her, with every ounce of her being. The kiss deepened, slowly and carefully, as if they both understood the significance of what they were sharing. Each movement was measured, tender, an exploration of the new intimacy that had begun between them. There were no words, no barriers, just a quiet understanding that this moment was theirs alone, and no one else could take it from them. Sophia's hands moved to Ava's back once more, pulling her closer, as if trying to close the gap between them, to make sure this feeling wouldn't slip away. Ava's hands found their way to Sophia's waist, the warmth of her skin beneath the fabric of her dress sending a shock of electricity through her veins. Sophia's fingers slid beneath Ava's shirt, tracing the curve of her side, and Ava gasped at the sensation. It was a simple touch, but it felt like a spark, igniting something deep within her. She responded in kind, her fingers brushing against the soft skin of Sophia's stomach, her breath hitching at the intimacy of the moment. The world outside the room, with its quiet hum and distant city lights, faded into nothingness as they moved together, their bodies aligning with natural rhythm, an unspoken connection. Every kiss, every touch, was a reaffirmation of the trust they had built, the intimacy they were creating. They weren't just sharing a moment of passion. They were building something real, something lasting, in the quiet space between them. Sophia's hands roamed to Ava's back, pulling her closer, their bodies pressing together as the kiss deepened. Ava could feel the heat between them building, a tension that was not just physical, but emotional, a shared longing, a shared need. There was no rush, no need to hurry. They were taking their time, savoring each moment, letting the intimacy between them unfold at its own pace. Sophia's lips moved to Ava's neck, her soft kisses leaving a trail of fire in their wake. Ava's head tilted back slightly, her body responding to the touch with a soft shiver of pleasure. She had never felt so connected to another person, so seen, so loved. In that moment, it was as though the world outside didn't matter. All that mattered was Sophia, this woman who had been through so much, who had suffered in silence, and who now found herself in Ava's arms, finally allowed herself to let go. The kiss became more urgent, more desperate, but still slow and tender. Their hands roamed over each other's bodies, the touch now more intimate, more possessive. Ava's fingers traced the curves of Sophia's back, feeling the tension in her muscles, the way her body responded to every movement. Sophia's hand slid beneath Ava's waistband, pulling her closer, and Ava gasped at the contact, the heat of Sophia's touch searing through her. They were no longer two strangers, no longer two women, simply sharing a moment. They were becoming one, bound by the intimacy they had created. Sophia's lips left Ava's mouth, trailing kisses down her neck, her collarbone, before finally resting just above her chest. Ava's breath caught in her throat, her hands threading through Sophia's hair as she tilted her head back in surrender. There was no more hesitation, no more fear. They had both given in to the pull they had felt from the beginning. And now, they were letting their hearts lead the way. Sophia's hands moved with intent, exploring Ava's body with gentleness that spoke of everything she had held back. Ava's own hands explored in kind, feeling the soft, warm skin beneath her fingertips, tracing the delicate lines of Sophia's body. Their bodies moved together once more, the rhythm slow and deliberate, each touch and kiss a reaffirmation of the bond they had formed. In that moment, Ava knew that this wasn't just about passion. It was about connection, about two people coming together to heal, to share, and to love in a way that neither of them had. As the night carried on, the intensity between Ava and Sophia began to ebb, the world outside the room slowly creeping back into their awareness. But even as the quiet hum of the city resumed, the room felt like a sanctuary, a place where they had both found something that went beyond mere passion. In each other's arms, they had discovered something deeper, healing forgiveness, and a kind of love that doesn't ask for perfection, but simply for presence. Ava lay beside Sophia, her head resting on her shoulder, as they both caught their breath. The room was silent, except for the soft rhythm of their hearts, a gentle reminder of the connection they had shared. Ava's fingers traced patterns on Sophia's skin, the intimacy between them settling into something more serene, more comforting. "I never thought I could trust again," Sophia whispered, her voice heavy with emotion. "Not after everything that's happened. Not after the lies, the abandonment. But with you, I feel safe. For the first time in so long, I feel like I can breathe." Ava's heart swelled at the vulnerability in Sophia's voice. She had known pain, too, the kind of pain that made you question your worth, your ability to trust anyone ever again. But in this moment with Sophia, she understood. Trust wasn't something that could be demanded. It was something that had to be earned, something that grew in the quiet spaces between words, in the tender moments of connection. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," Ava replied softly, her voice a soothing balm. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." Sophia closed her eyes, taking in Ava's words, allowing them to sink deep into her soul. The walls she had spent so many years building around her heart began to crumble piece by piece. For the first time, she allowed herself to feel, to let go of the fears and doubts that had kept her locked away for so long. Ava leaned down, pressing a soft kiss to Sophia's forehead, her lips lingering for a moment longer than usual. In that kiss, there was a promise to protect, to cherish, and to never let go. It was more than just a kiss. It was a declaration of love, of devotion. Sophia turned to face Ava, her eyes full of softness and wonder. "I don't know what happens next," she whispered, her voice uncertain but hopeful. "But I know that I'm not alone anymore, and I know that you're not him." Ava smiled, a small, knowing smile. "No, I'm not," she replied, her voice full of quiet confidence. "I'm here with you, and that's all that matters now." The world outside the room seemed to fade away as they shared another kiss, slow, tender, and filled with a kind of love that was both new and ancient, a love that had been waiting to bloom for far too long. As the kiss deepened, the passion between them reignited, but it was no longer just about desire. It was about something more profound, healing, forgiveness, and a shared future. Ava and Sophia's connection was no longer bound by the past, but was instead fueled by the promise of something better, something they would build together, step by step, day by day. Ava's hands moved over Sophia's body once more, her touch gentle but filled with the urgency of love. She traced the lines of Sophia's back, feeling the soft curve of her spine, the warmth of her skin. Each touch was a reaffirmation, a silent pledge to never let go, to always be there, to always love. Sophia responded in kind, her hands roaming to Ava's back, pulling her closer, as though she never wanted to let go. The kiss was hungry now, but it was still tender, still full of meaning. Their bodies moved together in a slow rhythm, the passion building with each gentle caress, each whispered word. The connection between them, so deep and so pure, flowed through every touch, every kiss. It wasn't just about the physical. It was about something sacred, something that transcended the physical realm and touched the heart of what it meant to truly love another person. As their bodies came together once more, they lost themselves in the moment, in the feeling of finally being seen, of finally being loved without judgment, without fear. The world outside could wait. In this moment, there was nothing but them, their love, their connection, their shared intimacy. Sophia's body trembled slightly under Ava's touch, the warmth of their bodies pressing together, and Ava could feel the soft tremors of release that ran through her as they both gave into the passion, the intimacy, and the love they had finally allowed themselves to feel. In the quiet aftermath, as they lay together, their bodies intertwined, Ava couldn't help but feel that this was more than just a fleeting connection. It was a new beginning, one filled with promise, with understanding, with healing. Sophia's breath was steady now, her heart calm, and for the first time in so long, she felt at peace. Ava had become her home, her safe place, and together they had started to rebuild what had been lost. "I'm not afraid anymore," Sophia whispered, her fingers tracing Ava's skin. "I don't have to carry it all alone." Ava kissed the top of her head, her hand resting on Sophia's back, pulling her closer. "No, you don't. We're in this together." And for the first time in a long time, Sophia believed her. As the quiet dawn light filtered to the window, Ava and Sophia lay in each other's arms, the night's passion and emotion settling into the calm stillness of the morning. The world outside seemed to resume its pace, but inside that room, everything had changed. Ava gently brushed a strand of hair from Sophia's face, her heart full as she looked down at the woman who had become so much more than she ever expected. In Sophia, she had found not just love, but healing for herself, for the woman she had longed to help, and for the complicated web of emotions they had both been tangled in for years. Sophia, eyes still heavy with the remnants of sleep, looked up at Ava with a quiet smile. It wasn't a smile filled with joy or laughter, but one of understanding, of shared experience, of a bond that had been forged in the most unexpected of ways. "I'm not who I was before," Sophia whispered, her voice barely above a breath. "And I know I can't change everything, but I can let go now. Let go of the anger, of the bitterness. And I think I can finally forgive him." Ava nodded, pulling her closer. "You're not alone anymore, Sophia. You never will be." The weight of Alistair's last wish had lifted in the quiet of their shared space. Sophia had received the truth she'd always deserved, and Ava had been the bridge between the past and the future. Together, they had written their own story, one that was free from the burden of past mistakes. There were no more secrets between them, no more shadows lurking in the corners. The journey they had started that night was only the beginning, and as they lay together in the quiet aftermath, they knew they had the strength to face whatever came next. Their connection wasn't just physical. It was a promise that no matter what, they would always find each other, no matter how broken the world had left them. Ava's fingers traced the curve of Sophia's cheek once more, the warmth of their touch anchoring them both in the moment. For the first time, there were no past regrets, no unhealed wounds. There was only the promise of a future they would build together, filled with love, trust, and the unspoken understanding that had been birthed in the quiet space between them. Sophia kissed her softly, a kiss filled with gratitude, vulnerability, and hope. It was a kiss that carried the weight of their shared journey, but also the excitement of what was to come, the life they would now live together. In the silence of the morning, as the sun rose higher, Ava and Sophia knew that no matter what the world had thrown their way, they had found home in each other.